Wait, no, stop, that's copyrighted music. So remember how in this video that none of you have watched, I mentioned that if I was desperate, I would review a movie from Vinegar Syndrome? Yep, already got there. Boy, do I feel like a penny in a slot machine. If you think that was bad, you should check out the ear rape and distorted version at the end of this video. Cutting Class is a 1989 black comedy film directed by Rospo Pallenberg in his directorial debut. Additionally, this movie was shot over 4 weeks in 1987, but was delayed for 2 years. Well, gee whiz, this is going to be a great movie. Now, this could either be a Citizen Kane, or it could just be an Alien 3. But, despite this movie not being that well known because you have self-respect, there is one thing many fans of this movie may know, that being that this is the acting debut of one of the biggest actors in Hollywood. Now, let me clarify, many celebrities have begun their career with some very questionable movies, but don't bully them. Sometimes it's only because they had no other roles and luck swoops in to take them into the mainstream. Also, I have to thank a person that I know for accidentally watching this movie on TV by random chance, because if they hadn't, I wouldn't have a video. Anyways, I've talked long enough for this review, let's get it started. Okay, let's actually get to the movie this time. As copyrighted music plays, we see a paperboy throwing newspapers around the neighborhood, with a very notable header. Here we meet our main character, Paula Carson, portrayed by Joe Sholin, who is very enthusiastic to participate in this movie. As Paula grabs the newspaper, we meet her father, William Carson III, portrayed by Martin Mull, who knows jack about gun safety, and unfortunately, most of Martin Mull's scenes will be useless filler to extend the running time to feature length. Also, this audio sounds as if it was dubbed.
You look like the mail-order outdoorsman.
Anyways, here we find out that Paula will be left home alone as her father will be on a hunting trip over the week. He also mentions a few rules.
Listen carefully, and I want you to promise me 3 things.
Do my homework.
No boys in the house while I'm away.
By the way, for my fellow editors and sound designers watching this video by random chance, here's a weird edit.
And number 3, and most important, no
cutting
class.
Oh, by the way, get used to those. This movie's littered with them. The father leaves and stops by this hunting shop and gets worms smeared all over him to smell like earth or whatever. I don't know. He starts hunting ducks in the backlot of John Carpenter's The Fog, or being that, Stephen King's The Mist. Except it ain't duck season, nor rabbit season, for the most dangerous game.
Mr. District Attorney, over here.
Oh well. Anyways, we see Johnny Depp driving at high speeds, almost running over a kid.
Same time tomorrow?
Well, that was a respectful response. Anyways, after we see a still image of the school, we see how much of a cool kid George Clooney is by arriving late to his class.
Take a sodium and chlorine. Together, they combine to give us sodium chloride.
In chemistry class, we meet this nerd who shows his knowledge on the subject.
Chlorine dropped into water gives off a deadly gas.
Didn't they use that stuff in World War I?
Oh, it was outlawed. Breathing it caused the lungs to burn, then melt.
Do you mean body melt? I'm never reviewing that garbage, by the way. Well, isn't this an advanced chemistry class? We never did any cool stuff like this. With gym class about to begin, Paula finds a leaf on an arrow. Truly unusual. As Paula attempts to perform gymnastics, the nerd from earlier stares at her awkwardly. However, instead of being creeped out, she gets flattered by this, as Jack Nicholson watches. Additionally, how convenient is it that all 3 of them have the same periods as each other? But who cares about that? The gym teacher clearly isn't very happy about this and orders the nerd to climb the rope. Unfortunately, Tim Robbins swings the rope around like a big meanie that he is and causes the nerd to fall down.
Brian Woods, what are you doing?
Bro, how blind are you? Also, here we get a proper introduction to Brian Woods, portrayed by Donovan Leitch. After school, we meet Paula's friends, Colleen and Gary, portrayed by Brenda James and Mark Barnett, respectively. However, Brian arrives watching them from afar as he does his auditions for Bicycle Thieves. Also, Peter Fonda arrives and asks Paula if he could stay the night, but Paula orders him to get a hot dog for her instead. Except, Brian gives Paula a hot dog, much to Stallone's disdain.
Brian beat you to it.
Get in the car.
Why?
Get in the car!
Geez, who do you think you is, Ike Turner? Anyways, here we see that Brian and Talia Shire here have history with each other, and that Brian is the kid who left the mental institution, as read by the header in the newspaper. This results with a warning for Brian.
Brian, old buddy, let me make one thing clear. Leave Paula and me alone.
At Paula's house, we see Robert De Niro playing dress-up and asking Paula if she's talking to him. Boy, do some people get some weird kicks. But who cares about that? Let's meet the sock-sniffing principal, Mr. Dante, portrayed by Roddy McDowell, or better known by his full name, Roderick Andrew Anthony Jude McDowell. I was actually quite surprised that this man was in the movie, but he probably needed the paycheck after the Planet of the Apes movies ended. Back to the movie, Bruce Stern tries to prevent Paula from posing in the art class, especially with the pervy art teacher, although I'm pretty sure she was destined to do this as this student already has an MS Paint drawing of her.
What should I do?
Bend over and pick it up.
As the art teacher crosses the line, Brian watches from afar but is caught. The teacher gets mad XD lol and punishes Brian by making him pose with Paula. Makes sense to me. Don't know what you're talking about. I haven't seen such a romantic movie since Attack of the Clones.
The thought of not being with you. I can't breathe.
After class, we get to see the principal interact with Paula.
Stop by my office, would you?
Why?
It's a surprise.
Paula, please. That dude's gonna Bill Cosby you. Do not listen to him. So after Paula listens to him, we get to see the principal's hiding spot. What kind of a hiding spot is that? Did you get a degree in how to look the most suspicious 101? Wait a minute, who in Sam Hell is supposed to be this guy? Oh, I get it. It's supposed to be a whodunit, isn't it? Well, great job for selecting an actor who looks nothing like our two leads. Perhaps if they had darkened the scenery, it could have worked. Considering how this movie was released direct-to-video, I believe it's safe to assume that they let the VHS transfers handle that, rather than altering their film negatives. Huh. I should probably clarify just in case. So back when VHS tapes were the biggest thing, even though Betamax was far superior quality-wise, the majority were notorious for being dark. In fact, as time went by, VHS tapes got darker the more worn out they got. That's why, if some movies were too dark, they would sometimes be brightened, like Tim Burton's Batman. In fact, it was so bright that you could see the hand driving the Batmobile. So, they took advantage of this flaw for their home video release, rather than fixing it in the negative. Wow, that was a long explanation. Let's get back. Well, that's a shot I won't be able to show. Later, we see the art teacher taking ceramics out of the school kiln, and is pushed inside and baked by the killer. My question is, why does the school have a kiln that looks like a Holocaust gas chamber? There's even a large amount of smoke being emitted. After school, we get to meet the custodian, who shows up sometimes, I don't know. Also, we find out that Lawrence Fishburne and the rest of Paula's friends have plans for later. At night, Paula hears a knock at her door, and we see Brian from a distance. That's not suspicious at all. Afterward, Paula's friends arrive, and they have Paula try to come with them to school, even offering Amy Adams' family ring.
Let her have your ring.
Anyways, Paula refuses as she has to study.
Kind of hard to study without these?
You are such a jerk!
Well, that's a solution. Our characters break into the school as the custodian cleans.
It smells like something died in here.
Witty. They break into the student files and begin to read Brian's file and hear the horrible things that they did to him in a mental institution.
He got shocked every day he was in the hospital. Every single day. How could they do that to him?
However, Brian watches behind the water dispenser, but Colin is too blind to see him. In math class, we see Brian's conditions in there. How blind is the teacher to not see the passing objects across the classroom trope, nor Colin's stroke?
Now, the train leaves Chicago at 7, heading for Boston. It goes 50 miles an hour. How long does it take the train to arrive at its destination if Boston is 400 miles away? Dwight, look at the answer on your paper.
75 watts.
So let me get this straight. Unless Paul Walker was completely ignoring the question, how would he mess up a question involving speed? How would this man be able to drive? That was the worst actor I could have associated with him. During a science field trip, we see this dumb incident.
Mother Nature
talks to you.
How do you not notice the obvious man you just stepped on?
Sounds like Mother Nature has cramps.
That was the cry of a bullfrog.
Bro, how? After the field trip, but before the basketball game, we see Principal Donnie doing what he does best.
I bet he kisses like a lizard.
In the locker room, Colleen decides to take off her underwear to please the audience from their school's bad team.
You're unbelievable.
Colleen flashes her skin-colored underwear, and we see these guys acting like they've never seen any form of nudity before. Kinda reminds me of this though.
Whoa, nice graphics. I'd like to get my hands on that game.
Anyways, we see Charles Bronson not at all doing his best in the game, especially since his university is watching, and gets in a fight.
Wait. Did you get mine? What do you think you're doing? You're supposed to use your head, not your fist, you idiot!
After he rage quits, Colleen and Garrett crawl underneath the bleachers only to be killed as the game ends. Oof, for real? You just clean up the blood for the camera and just barely realize something's wrong? What did you think that was, cherry sauce? We see Brian working on James Dean's car. Man, I really need to get some better people. Adjusting the brakes where he explains some stuff, although not significant. It's only their history. Also, remember this.
I'll never forget what you taught me. When you use a screwdriver, it's always righty-tighty, lefty-loosey.
Oh yeah, Paula's dad is still alive, but you already know it's filler. Man, you don't have to beat the students. This isn't Kess. Anyways, we see some bonding between Paula and Brian with music that sounds suspiciously close to the To Kill a Mockingbird theme by Elmer Bernstein.
Asshole teachers.
Well, that was bad. Let's see how Brian handles this.
I'd rather suck donkey dick.
You're suspended.
This won't end badly. At the printing room, a mysterious man who doesn't even match the silhouette of either of our leads kills the vice principal on the Xerox machine. After attention is brought on to the murder due to Paula's screams, Dennis Hopper comes to the conclusion that Brian killed her and chases him throughout the school.
What are you doing?
Ditto.
Ditto? Ditto, you provincial putz!
Brian continues to run away as he reaches 5 stars, but the police can't find him, nor could they find Paula's dad, who has done nothing but search for help.
Get help! Help! Get help! Help! Help!
A school meeting is called out, but honestly it really isn't that important and only exists to explain why there aren't any students later in the third act. I know you're supposed to be a weird kid and all, but why would you hide out in a dumpster? More importantly, why would you hide out in the school's dumpster if you're trying to run away from there? Also, due to the fact that there aren't any mention of his guardians, and the fact that he's been wearing the same clothing throughout the entire movie, I think there's an implication that this dude is homeless. So why doesn't he smell bad? Where would he shower and wash his clothes? But who cares about that? As Michael Myers stalks Paula in her home, Paula gets jump scared by a kid.
Bang!
After Paula gets jump scared once more, this time by a tape recorder, she finds some new information. The next day, Paula tells Vincent D'Onofrio about what she considers to be Brian's innocence over a cut brake line, causing some suspicion over Paul Severino's innocence, but come on. Well, after the audience gets flashed, we see the gym teacher get mad at Denise Richards over him not wearing his gym clothes and how it could be a risk to his education and his chances of getting a diploma. Therefore, Jeff Goldblum pulls this stunt.
Point!
After school, Samuel L. Jackson meets up with Paula, except she's upset at him for being drunk, and begins to suspect that he may be guilty. Juror number 8 would not approve. Probably doesn't help that after he leaves, Brian shows up, and although Paula starts off frightened, Brian starts to Ingrid Bergman her, telling her that Sandra Bullock is actually the killer. The following morning, Paula wakes up to a call with Eli Roth acting crazy, and Brian shows Paula the photo scan and notices his family ring established earlier. Now she is fully convinced. During gym class, David Carradine curses out the teacher.
Fuck you too.
Can't talk to students like that.
You know, I'd rather be cursed out than Bill Cosby'd. Paula and Brian watch from afar, only to be separated and chased by the custodian. Meanwhile, the gym teacher gets impaled by a flag on the trampoline. This death honestly makes no sense. I would have expected him to be stabbed in his no-no zone rather than his stomach. As Paula continues hiding, she soon finds Colleen and Gary's bodies. Also, it doesn't help that Billy Bob Thornton begins to bang on the door, leading to her running away. As Paula continues to run, she finds the math teacher, with them running away from the school speaker system. I'm just going to have to assume that the school doesn't have any landlines, because if it did, they would be calling the police right now. In fact, even if they couldn't call the police due to the hurry that they're in, they could just leave the phones down, because during a certain amount of time, if you leave the phone like that, it will automatically call the police. Also, why are these two continuously running away from the speaker system? What's he gonna do? Just like knock in, just kill you two? You do know you're 2 against 1, you can easily defeat him. Plus, this is a universe where it's completely wonky. A man just got impaled by a flag earlier on a trampoline, in a death that made 0 sense. All you have to do is use that fire extinguisher in that room and you can easily beat him. They enter a presumably safe room, only to be offered a life or death question. Again, why do you have to solve this? You could just stay right there. What's he going to do, throw a bomb?
Yes, I've got it. X equals 1. The trains will collide at 1 a.m. There, you see? I was able to figure it out.
What a great cocky teacher. Also, that's a nice plot twist there. There is none. Also, what is this editing? He gets hit 3 times, yet there is only 1 sign of injury on his face from the axe. Speaking of which, nice rubber axe. Here we get a full presentation of Brian's insanity. Now Paula's really in the soup.
He shoots! He scores! Yeah!
Damn.
Do you know that your father was the first person to call me a murderer?
Well, aren't you?
I was a murderer.
See? Told you.
And kill beyond the confinements of time or space. How could I kill people in the past, the future, or change the course of history forever?
Past, future, and present killings? This man is bonkers. After Brian finishes his monologue, Angelina Jolie practices his Jack Torrance impression. This results in the two running throughout the entire school. They enter the science room. Yeah, science room. They didn't even know which specific course this was, where they come up with this plan.
What for? This is sodium. Remember, sodium explodes in contact with water. Get back here! When Brian comes in, we're gonna blow him to pieces.
You're a Yankee Doodle, baby. To you. You too must kill or die.
Time to burn.
Brilliant. Also, that line that Brian said is in the plot synopsis in the movie's Wikipedia page. What's happening? The chase continues as the couple hide out in the workshop, but Brian searches for them like the velociraptors in Jurassic Park. Hey, wait a minute. That movie won't come out for another 4 years. What is happening? Brian catches up with them, resulting in a fight with the guys, involving the several dangerous tools surrounding them, which is pretty cool, although I could care less for the stock music in the background. However, Jennifer Aniston is captured by Brian and is taken into a vice, where Brian has Paula be responsible for his fate.
Righty-tighty or lefty-loosey? Which is it?
Paula gives in, with Chris Pratt getting a drill pointed at him. Paula becomes falsely submissive and gets Brian to close his eyes, where she kills Brian with the claw of a hammer and a buzzsaw to the back.
No more fucking around with my emotions! Atta girl.
What is this? Survival class?
Ha. The custodian watches as Paula frees Robert Mitchum. Wait a second. Does that mean that Brian technically still won at the end? He's trying to enforce the idea that it's kill or be killed. So yeah, no, he technically still won at the end. Anyways, with Brian dead, we see them all being acquitted.
Brian showed me. Dwight's ring is in the picture.
Dwight's hand was duplicated when he discovered Mrs. Tanaka's body.
Wait, but that's not physically possible. I know that this movie was trying to trick us by making the obvious red herring be the killer, but let's look back at that Xerox scene. His hands are not in the right position for that to happen, and don't say that they were working together. It's quite clear through a later action that Brian was the killer the entire time. You know what? Forget about it. Let's go on.
Why don't you make yourself useful for a ride home? Hey, don't forget to say hello to your father for me when he gets back.
As the couple drive at high speeds in the suburbs, we see that Paula's dad is still alive.
Brian said something about killing beyond space and time. About killing in the future. God, he's crazy. What's that?
It's not getting out of the way.
It's my father!
Shit! Brian!
What?
Brian, cut my brakes!
Oh, I get it. What Brian meant by killing in the future was by killing them with the cut brake lines in the car. That's stupid. How would you kill in the past? Are you implying that the father's murder was in the past? By that logic, everyone else was killed in the past. In fact, just because you cut the brake lines doesn't mean you killed in the future. It's just premeditated. And even if it were the case, then you wouldn't be the first one to do it. Also, this is proof that the two weren't working together, because he would have definitely known about the brake lines being cut. Additionally, how did he not notice that the brakes were cut? I highly doubt that he hasn't used the brakes, showing how reckless of a driver he's been. Anyways, they almost run over Paula's dad, but they stop the car in time.
Daddy!
I'm gonna kill that goddamn Brian Woods.
It's okay, Daddy.
He's dead.
What are you doing out here, Paula?
What do you mean?
Shouldn't you be in school? You're not cutting class, I hope.
That was funny. You know what? I think this movie was destined to be flawed, as you had a Nimrod and a dog working on the lighting department. Wow, that was truly unusual. Anyways, this was an interesting acting debut from Leonardo DiCaprio. It's not by any means a good movie, but I can understand why it has a cult following. I'd only recommend it if you turn off your brain while watching it, or if you want to make fun of it with friends. Anyways, I'm giving it a 4 out of 10 because that's how many hours it took me to record this. Oh wait, that was Brad Pitt? Anyways, we see some bonding between Paula and Brian with music that sounds suspiciously close to... Really? You just gotta fuck... I swear to God, I'm leaving this in. I'm leaving this recording in just for the ending after the Vinegar Syndrome logo. I'm leaving this in just to show you the pain I had to go through recording this.